Welcome to New Zealand's Deep South. This is one of the most scenic and mountainous regions of the South Island, and for the past 56 years, a small army of elite cycling teams have descended on Invercargill to compete in one of the biggest and toughest events on the New Zealand cycle racing calendar. Over the course of 7 exciting stages, the assembled teams will face everything the roads, terrain and weather of the region can throw at them. At the end of the week, the best cyclists will take home the titles and the jerseys money can't buy. This is the 2013 SBS Bank Tour of Southland. After 5 incredible stages, the conclusion of the 2013 SBS Bank Tour of Southland approaches. This has been a year in which the young guns have come to the fore and delivered some exciting racing. Grayson Napier from Creation Signs L&M Group Racing secured the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountain jersey with some good climbing on stage 1 to Gore and a well-timed break out of Te Anau. Tom Scully from Ascot Park Hotel Kia Southland did the same with the Harcourt Sprint Ace, taking sprint after sprint on the Bluff and Queenstown stages. The 187km stage to Queenstown was a high point of the tour, and it was Taylor Gunman from the Huon Salmon Genesis Wealth Advisors team who claimed the honours in the inaugural ascent of NZ Ski's Coronet Peak, just ahead of the yellow jersey holder James Oram from Kiwi Velo Armstrong Prestige. Oram's hold on the yellow jersey began on stage 2 with a clinical and efficient win on the iconic Bluff Hill stage. With his team controlling the peloton, Oram extended his lead on stage 3 and held it through 4 and 5. With one hand on the trophy, Oram needs to only hold it together for one more day to claim the overall classification and end the tour in yellow.
Bike racing, anything can happen, and the day to Coronet Peak worked in my favour, and I made the most of it. So now I'm fortunate enough to be in this position. So pretty nervous, to be honest, but got a really strong team around me. So it's a time trial. You can only go as hard as you can go and do the best you can. So I'll give it my all today for sure.
The final day of the SBS Bank Tour of Southland is a split stage day. The riders begin with stage 6, a 13km time trial in the heart of Southland at Winton. This will be a great showcase for the community spirit and local support that underpins the tour. The day and the tour concludes with a hard and fast final stage 7 through the rolling farmland of central Southland as the peloton heads south to Invercargill and the finish line in Queen's Park.
A very important part of the race, the individual time trial over approximately 13 kilometres, and that last year saw the lead change going into the final stage.
It's called the Race of Truth for a reason. The best rider wins the time trial. There's no hiding, no wheel sucking. The fastest man over the course wins.
So just a tad under 13 kilometres here for these riders today as they approach for the time trial. It's a big stage here, Doug, and as these riders now try and secure some top 10 placings.
Yeah, a couple of interesting points in the time trial, Gillian. No time trial bikes. The bikes they're using in this time trial are the bikes that they've used throughout the race, throughout the week. So no specialist equipment here. Probably makes it a wee bit more of an even playing field. See here, Joe Cooper is away in the national colours, the jersey and the skin suit that you get to wear when you're the national time trial champion. So no time trial bikes, probably a bit of an evening factor.
Absolutely, it seems to become the standard practice these days in the big tours, and of course these colours of the national champion. He'd be one of the men rated very highly here to potentially take out the stage. There's some very good time trialists coming into the second last stage of the day, and of course it's still very tight in the top standings.
You can see him really driving the gear over. He's got a lovely pedal action. Joe Cooper coming up the straight from Browns, coming up to the hard left-hander, of course into Winton to finish. But that man has got such a good style. He's in a massive gear there. He is really slugging this out.
We could just capture, there was a rider just out in front of him. Of course, these riders today starting at 1 minute intervals here in the main street of the central Southland township here of Winton. Always great supporters of the tour each year. As we look at the Genesis rider here, this will be a Taylor Gunman, I suggest, as we come round to the corner here. A very good time trialer indeed, and of course the man that took out the Queen stage, and he's got potential here to move himself closer towards that yellow jersey.
He will be riding as fast as he possibly can. This is a do-or-die effort here for young Gunman. He had such a good stage going up the Coronet Peak, of course, and he will be trying to maximise this gain in order to slip up in the GC, but he is really, really working hard. Look at that face.
Taylor's quite used to the pressure here coming into the last day, because last year he was leading the under 23 coming into this time trial, so he's quite used to the fact that he has to go out there and give it absolutely everything. There's only a few second difference between him and a second place here. He'll be keen to get himself up into there and potentially push against Oram, who of course is a very good time trialist himself, the yellow jersey holder.
Yeah, James Oram's time trial is going to be the ride of his entire year this afternoon, and it's going to be vital that he has a blinding ride.
And speaking of the man here, gets himself prepared onto the line. I wonder what's going through the man's head here. It's been a big week's racing. We knew that the Queen stage was going to be significant, but this time trial has also been talked up also. As we said, 49 seconds covering the top 4 riders. It's still going to go right down to the wire.
Yeah, 49 seconds, it's not a heck of a lot, you know, and the key thing here for James Oram, who we saw just going back through into the starting gate, is going to be to make sure he corners well, make sure he gets all the basics right, doesn't have any mechanicals, and there's nothing externally other than his own performance that is a factor in the ride for him.
Rider 103 Sam Lindsay is the man currently second in the general classification. He's climbed extremely well this week. It'll be interesting to see how he goes in the time trial. He's trying to hold on to that top 3 placing. He's had a fantastic ride, as is the rest of his team from the Barry Stewart builders. As we now get a great looking shot here is the tour leader, the man who's also been placed on the podium at the World Championships here in the time trial, so we know the sort of calibre this guy can produce in a time trial.
Yeah, the key thing here to look at is the efficiency that this guy's putting in. There's no wasted energy, no upper body movement. He is just driving all the way through and trying to get as much as he can out of the power output. This man is super smooth. World-class time trialer, of course, as you were saying. But look at this. He is just really making a great job with this time trial.
Of course, he is the New Zealand under-23 national road champion as well, so we know the pedigree of this guy here. He rides overseas throughout the year and has been touted as a potential champion in the international events in the coming years as he makes his way now down at the top end of Winton. A fantastic finish and ideal conditions once again here today.
Yeah, well, in years previous we've seen this time trial have to be cancelled with conditions, but you can see here now James Oram's just coming up to finish round this corner, and he's got the time trial sorted out, and he will have been very, very happy with this ride today.
So we wait for the calculators to come out here as he makes his way across the last few hundred metres, giving it absolutely everything. Won't be too concerned if he wins or not. It's all about staying right up there with a very good time. National Time Trial champion Joe Cooper, outstanding ride to take the stage, while Gunman moves into second place, switching it with Lindsay, and Oram still in yellow.
And you got something to ride for, like a podium spot, a chance to step up or a chance to get closer to the win. You always seem to find that extra gear, and you know, quite literally I was always finding that extra gear throughout the course, so I think that really helped me propel myself today, so yeah, happy.
I was trying to ride it as conservatively as possible and not lose any time or too much to Taylor or Sam. Distanced Sam a little bit, and only lost 5 seconds to Taylor, so yeah, couldn't have gone more perfectly.
So the riders just relaxing here on the final day, the final stage that will make its way out of Winton and eventually back into the traditional finish here into Gala Street and Invercargill.
There'll be a lot of relief on the riders, a lot of the riders in this race. Obviously the key teams that are vying for the positions are going to be very focused and very keyed up, but a lot of the riders in the rest of the field will be experiencing a sense of relief because it's been such a tough race this year. The terrain and the conditions, not so much the conditions, but this is one of the hardest tours that I can remember in terms of the geographical stuff they've gone over. So you can see here Big Jace Allen, he's enjoying it. Last stage of the tour, it's always a good fun time at the start.
These riders are knocking on close to 900 kilometres here. 7 days of racing. 15 teams still involved in the competition as they head out with the flag dropping on the edge here of Winton Township once again, making their way up towards the centre bush for the first sprints of the day. And it's Gordon McCauley and his team getting towards the front. We also see, of course, the Kiwi Velo colours. We'll see them a lot in the stage, no doubt, as they protect the man in the yellow jersey.
There'll be some strict riding instructions from the Kiwi Velo team, and I'm sure that there'll be some allegiances with some of the other teams too, just as a safeguard. But the Kiwi Velo team will have one and one only goal in this stage, and that is to protect their leader, make sure he gets to the finish of the stage. It's a mechanical sport. There's all sorts of things can happen in terms of your bike and so on. So they will be well drilled and will have all of the different contingencies planned for.
The blue colours here of Powernet once again going off the front, and it looks like the familiar figure there of Van Uden, already a stage winner in this year's tour, and he's in the top 3 currently in the Harcourt Sprint Ace, so he's trying to get himself a few more points and potentially get himself up into second spot, because no doubt about the man that's going to take that green jersey, that'll be Tom Scully of Invercargill, who's just too far ahead.
Yeah, Tom Scully's contesting of the Sprint Ace jersey this year has been remarkable. You can see once again at the front of the bunch, Genesis team, that's the Barry Stewart team, sorry, get them mixed up, it's always tricky, but the Barry Stewart team are obviously at the front helping out the Kiwi Velo guys. You can see further back in the peloton there's the yellow jersey wearer tucked in safely in about 9th or 10th wheel, so he's obviously keeping out of trouble, doesn't want to get too far back. But yeah, the Barry Stewart team are one of the other teams this year that have come on, probably under the tutelage of Gordon McCauley. Excellent effort.
Here we see the Southland public once again out keeping an eye on things as they make their way through. We can see the Calder Stewart's colours, I think that is towards the front of the race, and the pace being kept fairly high here, making life a bit difficult for some of the other teams. Of course, they want to get the big sprinters onto Gala Street, so hence you can see them strung out along here, and it's 2 or 3 teams doing a lot of the damage on the front. The last 87 kilometres, some of these young guys on the back of it will be counting down every metre of the road.
Yeah, that's one of the strategies of the teams, is to hit the front, get a number of teams at the front, roll round quick enough to make any of the breakaways sort of think twice about getting away, keeps the pace high, keeps everyone out of trouble, and it is actually a really, really safe strategy.
See again one of the Powernet riders just on the far left, the small figure there of Alex Ray just disappearing in behind one of his riders. He's a man we haven't seen too much of thus far in the tour, and he's a man that's been touted about always at the end of a stage kick. He's taken a stage before in the past, but as we said, it's the Barry Stewart builders, it's Kiwi Velo up there. We see a South Shore rider also. The South Shore, of course, the young guys, mainly from Australia and a few local boys, have moved themselves up into second overall in the team classification after the time trial earlier this morning.
You can see here again a view from the back of the race, and the peloton itself is bunched up again, so the pace has obviously come off a bit, but you can see a lot of these riders have probably experienced this race from a fair portion of the back of the field, given that the pace has been so high this year.
Bit of roadworks to contend with there, and it's always the case in which a puncher is highly likely, but it looks like they've got through there pretty comfortably there. There's plenty of vehicles with the spare wheels, but these riders seem to have been continuing on here, no worries whatsoever. As another burst for the sprint along the roads here, a few dollars still available for them, a few more points there as we see Powernets in the mix once again, and they've decided, as it's often the case, it's a bit like the time trial, the points race on the track, where we see the counter-attack happen straight afterwards.
Yeah, you can see here a group of 3 have gone across, and once again it shows you the level and the actual tightness of the racing this year, where a lot of the breakaways have gone away. They've got a bit of a gap. They've all then decided, hey, this is too hard, and we've all had to go back to the field. This has been an aspect of this race this year which is quite exciting for me, because there's a lot of young guys wanting to attack, a lot of young guys wanting to go off the front. They have a go at it, they get slided up, but their enthusiasm and motivation's that high, they're out there doing it again. So it's a great sort of setup, I think, for the New Zealand cycling scene, that we've got so many young, aggressive guys out there giving it a go.
So here we have Zenovic taking his teammate through in the under-23 category. That's Vesey. They've obviously had some sort of mechanical, had to go back and get something to eat, and he's now dragging him back through to the main peloton. A good example of how teamwork happens here on the tour.
Yeah, this is sort of the way that things work. Young Tom Vesey will be quite happy to be in behind young Zenovic there. He's one of the stronger riders in the field this year, a stage winner. He's also the under-23 national club champion. So yeah, team riding at its best. We're seeing lots of aspects here of a team set up in an individual road type event. But you can see once again the Barry Stewart guys are at the front. Gordon Macaulay's obviously got them drilled, said come on, let's get a crack on. And also you can see the Kiwi Velo guys there as well as back 9th or 10th, once again, yellow jersey wearer staying out of trouble.
So we can see this peloton's in excess of 50 odd kilometres an hour here as these lead teams continue to put the pressure on the rest of the field. They're trying to control things here, make life difficult for the rest of the field. The man in yellow though, he's got his team all around at the front of the race here, keeping things under control for him. But it's going to make things very interesting for those guys who want to take the stage victory.
Yes, this kind of setup does mean that some of the other teams are lining themselves up and are working out their strategy further along. We've got a couple of lumps again before the finish. We've got the Grove Bush Hill coming up, and we did see a major effect of that last year. Mike Northey won the Tour on this last stage last year, so this man will be very, very much aware of the variables of the stage and is just trying to keep as calm and relaxed as he possibly can.
As we pan back through the rest of the field here, we can see the Genesis team. Of course, there's Taylor Gunman, the man that is in second overall, the winner of the Queen stage here. It is still only seconds covering there. What sort of plan have they got afoot here? Are they waiting for some of those lumps along the road? Are they going to wait till they get onto Queen's Park? Because, of course, 3.5 laps, it's still a decent distance for a gap to open as we go back to the back of the field here, and a number of them there are starting to line themselves up with their teammates and start to sort out what they need to do.
This area they're riding through is called Spring Hills. It's actually very quite undulating and quite lumpy. And at the end of a stage race like this, any small variation in the terrain really does zap your legs. These guys have been riding all week at such high speeds, so there's a fatigue factor which compounds later on as the tour goes on, and it can be a matter of 100 metres or 200 metres, and it can be a split emerge. So anything can happen at this point.
It's one of the shortest stages, of course, of this year's tour as we make our way through to 43.5 kilometres or so into the stage here for the riders as they make their way up towards one of the hill climbs of the day, the Rakahuka Hill here. It's a common training ground for many riders here in Southlands, and you can see some guys are struggling on the back. Just down at about third, fourth wheel is the young man from Nelson, that's Grayson Napier. He's decided he's going to hit it out here, go onto the wheel. Van Uden, I think, once again, who's keen to take points in anything whatsoever. But Napier on his wheel there is going to try and pick himself up a few more points. Doesn't require them, but I think he just wants to point out the fact I'm in the polka dot jersey for a very good reason.
This young man has seriously impressed me all week. Not only can he take a smaller climb like this one, a wee Cat 4 climb, but he can also go over the big climbs as well. He's an all-round bike rider, this guy. I think this is a chap we've got to watch for the future for the overall Tour winners sort of jerseys as well, because he is a real talent. So here we are on the outskirts of Morris Bush. The riders will ride along the main Warnville-Dacre road here and hang a left hand into the run into Gala Street. It's a very, very quick run in too. It's quite undulating but mostly downhill from Morris Bush in. So it really is, oh goodness me, there's been a pile up there. It appears that one or two of the riders may have clipped the traffic island. Doesn't look like there's anyone in the major classifications though that appear to have fallen off. Number 95 there looks like Matt Marshall. He's had a couple of spills like this with traffic islands, and that was number 75. Tom Chapman from Mosgiel and the Creation Signs L&M group. I'm sure those guys will get back on. It would be a crying shame if they missed the finish into Gala Street, but that was just bad luck.
Yeah, 3 riders from the Pure South team, and you can see there they're trying to chase to get themselves back on. They want to experience the finish into Gala Street with this big peloton.
It is such an exciting finish, and of course being the last stage, there's a huge crowd gathers at Gala Street. It is very, very motivating for these guys. There's also a lot of pre-money and prize money up around the laps around Queen's Park, so there's a lot of motivation, and everyone does get very, very excited on this last stage.
They'll be making a right-hand turn here, and here they go now around that roundabout. Very cautious, the riders here, with the slippery conditions now as they've entered into Invercargill. And you can see one of those preems, the yellow flag indicating that, and that's why Gordon Macaulay's decided to get out of the seat and wind things up and try and pick himself up a few dollars on the back straight of it here. They'll turn left into Calvin and around into the finish with 3 laps remaining. Of course, the same circuit they used for the team time trial some 7 days ago.
Yeah, the corners are very, very slippery, especially when we've had such good weather conditions, and there are a lot of white painted lines. It's a school area around here, so there's a lot of crossings and white painted lines around, which are just treacherous in conditions like this on a push bike when you're doing close to 50 kilometres an hour around a corner.
And here's a man we mentioned earlier on, Alex Ray, by the looks of it, here from PowerNet. We've inspired him here, the man in the blue colours. He's taken a stage into Tuatapere before. He's got a pretty good sort of a sprint on him, but now he's decided he's going to be a bit of a time trialist as he goes off the frontier. He's had a pretty good sort of a season, but a very quiet tour thus far, and has now decided to show the PowerNet colours out in front.
It's a very, very big effort to try and jump away from such a huge number of chasing riders and try and stay away on your own. It's very, very uncommon in this last stage because the peloton is just so keen to set up their sprinters for the final sprint into the last stage.
And here comes the fast finishing peloton now, lining themselves up for this a big finish into Gala Street. They're spread across the road. Brenton Jones down on the inside. Cam Kowalski, they throw it to the line, but I think she's going to go to Jones, who will take out another one for the Genesis team. Cam Kowalski securing a second place and defending champion Mike Northey into third.
Oh, fantastic last stage. You know, to win a stage is awesome, and the boys did awesome today, and I couldn't have done it without them. So the Hugh and Sam and Janice Wealth Advisors, whole team, strong team, and good to get the job done.
James Oram, the New Zealand under-23 champion, takes his first ever victory here in the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. 28 seconds ahead of Taylor Gunman, while Sam Lindsay will secure third spot at 1:06. The Harcourt Sprint Ace goes to the local legend Tom Scully, a popular win from Paul Odland and Van Uden. The Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains goes home with the young man Grayson Napier on 45 points from Hambrook and Van Uden once again. Henderson Construction under 23, James Oram secures that by 3 minutes 53 from local men Vesey and Huseman. While the Wensley's team classification goes on to the shoulders of the Hugh and Salmon Genesis Wealth Advisors, some 3:36 ahead of South Shore Insurance from Australia and the local team of H&J's Outdoor World Advanti Plus.
Yeah, really happy to take home the jersey. The boys at Ascot Park and Kia Southland are ecstatic about it, so it's cool. I think I took it on the stage down to Bluff, from Limco to Bluff, and picked up the points from there. Once I laid my hands on it, I wasn't going to let it go.
Yeah, it was a good day. Genesis have come through and proven their strength, 4 stage wins from the prologue all the way to the last day, so that's a good tour, and to come away with second is great, and personally I'm quite happy and excited for what comes in the future with Genesis.
Hugo, Armstrong, Prestige boys had it under control the whole day, so we were very, very close to the win there with Mike Northey. Would have been cool if he had taken away, but third place is still amazing.
We are delighted. It's a fantastic week. It always is, really, and the people around it make it. But we've had an outstanding result. We've seen some great racing, which is what it's all about, and obviously, some spectacular scenery. So, no, couldn't be happier.
Follow the 2013 SBS Bank Tour of Southland all week with full results, live roadside updates, photo and video galleries at tourofsouthland.com.